My name is Meira Merz. My pronouns are she, her, hers. So I self-identify as autistic and also on the spectrum. And the tricky thing about self-identification is dependent on the setting, I might use it differently to my benefit. So in the clinical medical model of disability, certain ways of self-identifying are considered more legitimate or respected or recognized, which really stinks because it can be somewhat dehumanizing at times. But if you're seeking access to resources, accommodations, and or care and supports, it may be necessary to change up your lexicon of terminology depending on who you're talking with. For my personal interactions, where I feel most centered and authentic, it's on the spectrum or autistic.
Hi, my name is Sylvan. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them, and I am on the board of directors at CPWD. I describe myself as an autistic person rather than a person with autism because being autistic is part of my mind, my brain, the way it all works. And it's not something I have that could theoretically be separated from me. And I think when some people talk about people with autism, they have this idea that they could be made to not have autism, which is A, impossible, and B, undesirable. Because it's good for everyone to be different. Like, that's a positive thing for society, for communities that we're in. You know, if everyone thought the same way, there wouldn't be any kind of innovation. It would make problem solving really difficult. You know, the fact that everyone is different is really a huge benefit for society, for our community.
I find strength and grounding in my identity, and I feel no shame in it. So, yeah, proudly autistic, extra spicy.
Extra spicy, I like that.
I didn't receive my formal diagnosis until I was 39.
Wow.
I self-diagnosed 2 years prior to that. I had always been different, and I had always had challenges with learning in a conventional academic setting. And there had been a lot of challenges around social communication and interaction with miscommunications and misunderstandings in terms of what I was trying to express versus how it was received or perceived by others. And so growing up in school, challenges started appearing in conjunction with co-occurring social anxiety as soon as I was expected to engage with an appropriate peer group that never felt like a peer group. I always knew I was different. I was othered immediately. Different wasn't acceptable. It was bad, it was wrong, it was weird, it was freakish, and I couldn't figure out what I said and did that made me so different from my peers. There was teasing, there was ostracization, there was harassment, there was assault, and a lot of it was really dismissed by adults. Oh, that's just kids being kids. But even when I was younger, I noticed a disproportionate quantity of that type of attention directed at me personally. And since I was the common denominator, the perspective was, well, what did you do to make them treat you that way?
I was about 13 and I found this article describing kids with, persistent specific interests, or however they would put it. And I tried to say to my parents, I think I have this. And my parents said, essentially, oh, that's an autism type disorder. You don't have that. You engage with people and you can talk, and there's just so much misinformation that I didn't get diagnosed as a kid, even as a preteen. When I tried to bring up the possibility, I tried to bring it up to a therapist too, and she said, oh no, you like hugs, and autistic people don't like hugs, which is such a weird, like, oh, one thing that I don't associate with the stereotype. Let's cross off that possibility then.
Functioning labels are applied to autistic folks and disabled folks, and part of the place that comes from is they're used in determination for accessing accommodations and supports. The criteria that are developed to make those determinations are done by neurotypical people. Those terms are often used by neurotypical people. You can say higher or lower support needs, and they're both still going to be inaccurate, because being autistic is not a fixed state. It's not a fixed skill set. It's static, it's fluid, it's variable. If I'm in a sensory overwhelming environment and I'm not allowed to control any of those sensory factors, I'm going to run out of personal resources a lot quicker. And as soon as that happens, it's going to negatively impact my executive function skills, which is going to directly impact my emotional ability to regulate, my working memory, my ability to sequence tasks. All of those things are going to come under fire.
Executive dysfunction is a difficulty with what's called executive functioning, which is sort of a catch-all term. Executive functioning skills are these sort of processes that allow you to sort of regulate yourself and your environment for daily living, like planning things, determining what needs to be done, and actually doing it, which is really what I have a problem with. And since learning about executive dysfunction, I've been able to be kinder to myself about it, because I always just felt like it was sort of a moral failing on my part, that I couldn't simply get things done on time.
Contrary to what is spoken about with a lot of autistic folks, it isn't whether or not we express empathy, it's how we express it, and it's our strengths in expressing it, which comes back to a lot about neurotype. So neurotypicals communicate and express empathy in one way, and neurodivergent folks do it in a different way. We do it well in our own groups. When you mix us, everything gets lost in translation. And since the default communication standard and norm is neurotypical communication, then must be something wrong with those autistic folks.
The way that neurotypical people communicate is different from the way neurodivergent people, and specifically autistic people, that's what I'm most familiar with, communicate. Like the sort of exchanging of pleasantries is not as important to us. We autistic people, I think, tend to prioritize honesty over not rocking the boat. The fact that I appreciate clear language and being direct as opposed to trying to, pick up what people are implying, is an autistic trait, but you don't really hear it described in clinical materials or anything like that in those terms. It's always described as like difficulty understanding social cues. And I've learned, there's a sort of mismatch between the kind of social cues that non-autistic people give and the way that autistic people communicate. But that's not a deficit on our part. It is just just a mismatch of communication styles. There is a lot of ableism against autistic people, and it often comes from seemingly well-meaning, this angle of, oh, we want to help you. We want to help you overcome this problem that you have. But it's never really about overcoming what is a problem for the autistic person, which is things like being ostracized or not being able to regulate your sensory environment in the way that you need. It's always about fixing the autistic traits that are seen as problems to other people. For non-autistic people who want to advocate for autistic people, I would say understand that autism is a neurotype. It is something that is inherent to us. It's not something that we need to overcome. The things that society thinks need to be fixed about us are not problems that need to be fixed. They're just how we are. And what is really needed is greater acceptance.
So if you could describe what true allyship then looks like, what would that look like? Like, paint a picture.
It looks like doing the research and the homework. It looks like checking social media for self-advocates. It looks like reading articles. It looks like
Watching this video, maybe?
absolutely. It looks like asking an autistic person if they are comfortable discussing it with you, and what, if any, references they would give. And doing some homework yourself, and if there's something you're unclear on, asking them if they would be willing to have a conversation with you about it. It looks like believing us. It looks like acknowledging our boundaries and not pushing them and not dismissing them. It looks like honoring our needs, whatever circumstance that involves in academia, in the workplace, in a home environment.
What do you like about being autistic?
It's not a question I get asked a lot, because for a lot of people it doesn't occur to them that there would be something you would like about being autistic. But I certainly wouldn't want to not be autistic. I really appreciate, the interests I have bring me so much fascination and joy. And I think that's, that can be pathologized as restricted or repetitive interests. And that's not, like, why would you pathologize that? I love language. I love rabbits. I can look at pictures of rabbits and just feel really happy. I love being able to learn about things that interest me. And I think that an advantage that autistic people have is that we are a little less, we're more likely to question why things are the way they are societally. I mean, I think a lot of things that are socially constructed come across to neurotypical people like, that's just the way it is. And it's neurodivergent people who ask, well, why is it like that? Because there's this disconnect where we don't just automatically follow along with what everyone else is doing.
Neurodiversity exists for a reason. We're wonderful people. We're necessary people. We're innovators. Our perceptual abilities, our engineering brains in various capacities, our visual thinking, our unconventional communication styles are here for a reason. You know, we have so much to offer. Come to us with some humility and some decency. Chances are we'd love to connect with you.